Hello there, and thank you for watching my final business law research presentation. My name is Olivia Hines, and I'm a business student at Appalachian State. Today we are going to look at the legality issues in proposing taxes specific to food's nutritional value. Advertisements and marketing have overrun today's culture. We are surrounded by billboards for large retail chains and bus ads for the cottages. It is impossible to escape it, and it seeps into our subconscious. Therefore, it is no surprise that in 2012 alone, the fast food industry spent $4.6 billion in advertising, and most of these ads were targeted towards children and teens. They are using ads and marketing to draw in customers, buying all kinds of junk food from Big Macs to Big Gulps. Opposing the junk food giants, there are a multitude of health and nutrition organizations promoting healthier choices and lifestyles. Many of these condemn the greasiness of fast food and sugary carbonated drinks like Coca-Cola. Organizations like the World Health Organization and Slow Food USA are a few of the ones lobbying for legislature or taxes that would encourage people to make better choices for food. While these are gaining traction and coverage, their funding is mere change compared to the money that corporations are using to counter their efforts through lobbying and counter campaigns. Food is essential to life, and therefore there will always be food companies out to make a profit. However, fast food companies have seen exponential growth in comparison to grocery store brands. By 2018, the fast food industry is projected to reach $210.22 billion in sales per year. Now, this kind of statistic sounds great on paper, but as profit grows, and it would benefit the American economy. This, however, does not account for the rising obesity rates and all the medical costs that go along with obesity to support the declining lifestyles. Currently, 34.9% of American adults are obese, and $147 billion is spent each year in medical costs related to obesity. Most of this money is subsidized by government programs like Medicaid or Medicare. While this is happening, giant corporations are funneling millions of dollars into lobbying in Washington, D.C., pushing against food labeling guidelines and restrictions. The food legislature is swayed by who is bringing the most money to the table. This is a big problem in American culture, as it is giving legislators a biased perspective when they are going to make laws. Now we are going to look at the two most prominent opinions about taxing junk food. The first opinion is the pro-tax opinion. For items such as alcohol and cigarettes, there is a sin tax in place. Junk food could be viewed by some as gluttonous or sinful, and thus could be filed into a sin tax category. There is also the argument that the government should be worried about the well-being of its citizens. There should be more concern about the obesity statistic of over 1/3 of American citizens being obese, and that we are currently living in a McDonald's-dominated culture. This also would not be a full ban on junk food, as with the sin tax on cigarettes and alcohol. Those who still wish to partake could simply choose to pay the tax. This tax, however, would be providing an extra incentive for people to make healthier choices and live a healthier lifestyle. The opposite of the side of this argument, that against such a tax, is most heard by the same giant corporations cranking out the junk food. The American dream is held near and dear to Americans, a belief that anyone can make it. This is also supported by the capitalism and free market economies that we see in America. If there is a demand for fast food, why should the government step in? If such a tax were put into place, it is no secret that fast food restaurants would be losing a substantial amount of money. Food is also a personal choice. the same way we have freedom of speech, not something that should be mandated or for the government to put any influence on. So, when trying to write such a law, there can be a lot of gray area. It's hard to make a definite line as to what's going to be junk food and what's not. For example, we could say that all fast food restaurants will be considered junk food and will have to be filed under this tax. But then when you look at the specific foods, it gets a little different. For example, how could we compare French fries from Red Robin, which is a sit-down restaurant, to French fries from McDonald's, which is a fast food restaurant? There's a lot of room for discrepancy here, and I think this opens a window for corrupt lobbying in D.C. This is how companies would get around such taxes or try to find a loophole to get their company off the list of junk food places. Junk food policy has been attempted a few times, but to no success. New York City attempted to ban sugary drinks over 16 ounces, like the big gulp you see here. But the law was shot down, and people argued that the government had no right to decide how much soda a person could or could not drink. In San Francisco, Happy Meal toys were banned with kids' fast food meals. All this caused was McDonald's creating a loophole and continuing to give kids the toys as a positive reward for choosing a Happy Meal. They did this by charging 10 cents per toy so that they could say they were not simply giving away toys, but that the toys were being purchased by themselves. So how could such a tax work? Personally, I think that a tax like this would work if there was a precise percent of fat that would lead to a junk food being taxed. This could also work for a precise amount of sugar in a food. For example, if a food has over 3% fat, then it should be taxed, or 3% sugar, or something like that. Overall, I think an additional tax would be more beneficial to America's well-being. However, I think that the corporations have too much of a presence in Washington, D.C., and a tax like this is going to be unrealistic. There is no way for us to stop the pushback that would feel, and it's also hard to get Americans to realize that this tax would be more beneficial to them than it would be harming them. I definitely think that it could be misconstrued as a restriction instead of as positive reinforcement for making healthier choices. In conclusion, food issues will always have a presence in the realm of legal issues, as food will always be a necessity. Taxing junk food could help Americans make better decisions about the food that they are eating, potentially lowering obesity rates. However, many businesses do not want the government meddling with their customers or swaying opinions about their products. This is a very big issue right now, and I feel like there is only more to come. With big corporations slowly taking over all of the food industry, they definitely are increasing their presence in Washington, D.C. This is allowing them to bypass many CDC implied guidelines and for them to be able to continue serving their junk food to the public. Thank you for listening to my presentation on food taxes by nutritional value.